Okay, and if someone joins in, we certainly can accommodate them when they arrive. But if it's okay with folks, I'd like to start now and we can dig in. Great. Were there any thoughts or concerns about the minutes that have been sent out from our previous meeting? Great. We've got a few things that are in the works and things that I think some things have evolved and are moving along. A big piece that sort of has advanced and then we sort of pulled back a little bit was the north and the east wall reconstruction. And I think there had been a bid package put together, but then asbestos was discovered, and then the bid package was withdrawn. And have there been any updates since that, Paul?
Okay, on the masonry project, I assume you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, nothing further other than the fact that it's supposed to be ready to bid again at the end of this month. Because they were just waiting for some clarification on the hazardous materials so that they can include instructions in the bid for contractors. I'm assuming, you know, that it's ready to go. If not, Tuesday's the 1st, I'll be rattling the chains.
So when you say end of the month, you mean the end of August?
Yeah.
And 2-week bid period, or any idea when the bids are due or would be due?
What's that?
And is there a bid date been set yet? When bids will be received?
It's only going to take a couple of weeks.
Okay.
They only get 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
It's going to be, there's a couple of contractors that definitely want to bid. They're pretty familiar with everything. It's not going to take them long to go through with this.
Okay, and we don't have to publicly advertise that?
It went to specific contractors.
I'll put it as a 2-week or a 2-week minimum bid period.
Yeah, it should take them only 2 weeks. I think whatever the date that the bids go out, it should be only about 2 weeks before they're due back.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be a long process. I just got to make sure they're going. And like I said, on Tuesday is the 1st, so we'll be double checking everything on Tuesday.
Great, thank you for the update. Hello, Michelle, how are you? Excellent. So another.
So may I ask a question about that? So this is for both the masonry work and the asbestos or hazardous materials abatement as well?
Yes.
So what happens if the folks who have the masonry skills don't have the abatement skills? Do they subcontract out? Just out of curiosity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one single contract. It's not that you would have to administer 2 different contractors at the same time.
The abatement has to be done by a certified company with certified technicians. Neither of the masonry companies that are looking at this have those people on board. I mean, they just subcontract them.
So they are responsible. Masons are responsible for hiring the asbestos contractor to do that work at their behest.
Yes, it's going to be included in that bid.
Good, excellent. Thank you. Good question, Marie. Thanks for asking, and I will make sure that's clarified. We have our SHPO Historic Structures Report grant, which we apparently had received, but then we're waiting for some direction from SHPO. And we had gotten some contact back from them, but I don't think there's any specific direction at that time. Have they provided any guidance yet?
Yes, apparently we have our ducks in a row. Apparently we have everything ready to go forward. There's one hitch. I have to log into the state site for actual contract signing, and apparently that's a sort of a nightmare. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So when I get back to the library, I'm going to have to call their helpline and figure out how to do that. But that's just basically a matter of a final contract signing.
So that's the contract between the library and SHPO
Right.
or DASNY. Now, they had indicated they had some language they wanted included in the RFP to the consultants as well. Have you heard anything further about that?
No. No.
Okay. That's the suggestion I had heard, that there was some things that were pending there. So if that's not the case, that would make life better.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything on that. There were just a couple of paperwork things that we had to sign that are part of the state funding. And those have been done. As I say, everything, all the required paperwork seems to be done at this point.
Okay. So you think that will happen next week sometime?
Yeah, I just have to
Okay.
get through that process with the state.
Okay. Thanks for the update. I appreciate it.
Well, I don't know whether I have the information and skills to help with that, but if I can help you with that, I would be happy to do so.
Oh,
It
thank you.
may require your knowledge, but
I'll be sitting there pulling my hair trying to. It's an amazing sight, really.
Yeah. Nothing is simple with the state now.
No.
Sort of structured report. SR. Okay. There had been a grant application, I believe, in March, where we had applied for some funds for use as a match or partial match for our SHPO grant. And Marie or Paul, you want to give us an update on that?
Well, that's great.
I can speak to that. Yes, I opened a letter the other day when I was at the library, and I found that they did award us the grant that we requested. They've asked that we not publicize it. They want to publicize it first before we make it public. So that's why we're not using the name of the granting organization tonight in this meeting, nor will we in the board meeting that will come up. So I was, one, surprised that we got awarded the grant, and secondly, the amount was for the full request, which I wasn't expecting. So I'm pleased. So that leaves the match for the library at less than $5,000 on the historic structure report.
And could you refresh my memory on what the value of that grant was?
15,000.
Thank you.
They did have a requirement that they approve the consultant that's hired to perform the historic structure report, get a copy, things like that. They also indicated that because of the situation in the state economic right now, that there may be some holdback of that, but they would expect us to be able to get that eventually. Does anybody have anything to add on that, or any questions? Evelyn, did you have a question on it?
Nope. I was trying to say Mazel Tov.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, you know, initially I was really excited because it's the first proposal I've ever written. And then it occurred to me that I used a lot from the grant that Mark had written for the consolidated funding application. And then I know that he used a lot from what Paul had written prior to him. But it just goes to show you how valuable those applications can be, even in terms of going forward, even if you don't get the particular grant you're going for. So thank you, Paul, for your help.
I think now I'll be shipping all these grants over to you.
Well, we'll have to talk about that.
Well, it just goes to show that success breeds success. So congratulations to all of you who have worked on this here and made this continually better. And so nicely done. Very nicely done.
I feel bad that I can't let the people know who wrote us letters of support right away.
Did they give any hint about when they might make that public announcement? Are we waiting for a few days? Are we waiting for a few weeks? Are we waiting months?
They said the end of the summer. I think that they're waiting to hear back from everyone in terms of, you know, all the awardees before being able to announce that. They want to make sure they're accepting the award, which we have to do at our next board meeting. They'd like us to do that as soon as possible. So
can we go into executive session to do that award, or does that need to be in a public session? Or do we have to go into executive session, say the specifics so that the trustees can vote on that?
I did look at open meeting law, and for executive session, it didn't seem to qualify, but we can do what we're doing here, which is just not to say from whom it's come. And I can check further. I can ask an opinion on that. So I'll write that down to do that.
Yeah. It's not real estate and it's not a personnel issue. So you don't think it can be done in executive session?
You guys are the experts.
It seems to me
Yeah.
like if we approve it as a board to accept, that's a contract. And that contract negotiations can be done in
Do you think it's a
executive session.
contract?
Yeah,
But
Hmm.
I would say it's a contract, sure.
Well, I'll check on it to see.
Do you know when they're going to make their announcements?
I don't. As I said, it depends on when they hear back from everybody. And I actually found that the letter was dated about a month ago. You know, because we haven't been going to the library like we ordinarily do. And I think I had gone just before, and then this probably came in. And actually, I was surprised that it was sent to me at the library. Paul and I had tried to handle it in such a way that that wouldn't occur because we weren't even getting our mail earlier when this was written. So I don't know how they came up with that address, but that's what they did.
It may not be when you went to get it, maybe when it was actually delivered these days.
It's true.
Could be.
So, but I did call and thank them and tell them that our lack of early response didn't indicate our enthusiasm, and check to make sure that it wouldn't be a problem because you're supposed to respond within 30 days of the date of the letter. Now, another part of this is that it's supposed to be completed within a year of signature of the quote contract. So we need to keep that in mind too.
If we don't have other options of what we do in the board meeting, could you talk to the grantor about somehow using their initials or some way that we could cover ourselves in our board meeting when we accept?
What's your concern? How do we need to be covered?
Well, that we are accepting a grant from what would be an unnamed source.
Yeah.
Which goes against some of, I think, of our policy in that everything needs to be transparent and, you know, usage of funds. I think it's probably best for us to be able to in some way refer to the grantor without in any way jeopardizing the grant or jeopardizing what they want us to do, and yet covering ourselves by accepting it from a particular entity.
Just in years future, someone's looking back through the minutes and we're trying to sort out what happened when, it'd be good if we can be clear about what happened or what was being discussed. A grant, which grant?
Right.
A grant? You know,
And
unless we
that too.
retroactively go back and update, we in a future meeting would say, oh, by the way, back in May, we were talking, back in August or September, we were talking about this. But I'll leave it that smarter minds to advise on that, and whatever the board decides on, I would support. So,
Wouldn't that be a problem even in terms of going into executive session? If we went into executive session so that the organization wouldn't be named unless we then spelled it out when we came out of the executive session, that same issue would be.
Are minutes kept in executive session?
No,
They aren't, but you are supposed to say what your action was, you know, and like if you have a motion or whatever. So I will check further into that to see.
Okay.
please, you know, I don't want as our entity, the library, to put us in jeopardy, even though this is a wonderful thing. And I know we want to do what they've asked. It's just trying to make both ends work.
Right. And, you know, I can put the information up on our Dropbox. So I think you probably all know whom we're speaking about anyway already, since we've talked about the application to begin with.
Yes.
But you know, I can certainly put it up. I just didn't want to do that before people were informed about their request to us not to share the information, to let them do it first.
Well, you know, they might
Thank you.
say bringing up their name in our board meeting is not what they considered publicity.
Well, but our board meetings are public.
Right, I know that. I'm quite aware of that. It's just that maybe that's not what they're referring to. Maybe they're talking about press releases. Maybe they're talking about any other kind of announcements besides what's said there. You know, if you could
Yeah.
get something more specific from them.
I did discuss that with them, and they would prefer if we could avoid doing that.
Okay, you didn't
Since
mention
it is public, since it is, you know,
that. Okay, you didn't make that. I hadn't heard that from what you said.
I'm sure I didn't say that.
Thank you. Thank you for looking into it. And if you just advise us at the next meeting, we'll follow accordingly. I will. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Anything further on those grants in particular? Then I think we've also got a grant application in progress for a public library construction grant. And I think we had talked about the reading room plaster at the downtown branch, and we talked about the kitchen floor slab. Is there any update on that?
Yes, the final deadline for us would be September 1st. Well, it's the semi-final deadline. Everything is ready to go except for one thing, and Maria's coming in on Monday to sign a bunch of forms that the board president has to sign, and then we'll be ready to submit that grant. That grant, I'm sorry, I don't have all exact figures here. Is basically for about $98,000. It'll be a 25-75 match. So our match is between 23 and 24,000 for that grant. There's 9 libraries. Tim, the director of Upper Hudson, said there's 9 libraries that are probably going to file for the grants this year. Given that and the totals that he has seen so far, it looks like it's not going to be that competitive. It looks like everything will be approved.
Oh, great.
Nice to hear that inside information there. And that $98,000, is that for both those scopes of work?
Yeah,
or is it
but
just-
I put in for both projects and I just combined them.
Okay, great. Great. I think you said that there are 9 applicants, we think.
Yeah, he hasn't got, he'll know September 1st for
Right.
sure, but on a preliminary deadline, there were 9
Okay.
applicants.
And I think you said it was a 25-75 split for us.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the update. I appreciate that. Thanks for advancing that process, and thank you, Maria, for your helping pull that over the finish line there.
Actually, thank you, Kirsten, for your description of the 2 projects because I used that.
Oh, good. I'm glad that was helpful. I hope that works out. I hope that, and you got the cost estimates from the contractor.
Yeah, I got it. We just had one estimate.
Great. Great, thank you. Is there anything further on the library cupola grant at the?
Yeah, as far as I know, everything's been approved and Dasney's fine. It's just a matter of that paperwork working its way through the system. But there should be no other issues at this point.
Great.
I think I have the file available, listing off all the different grants related to construction. But Joy, you would have to allow me to screen share.
Sure. One second. I think you should be able to do it now.
Okay, I'll try again. Oh, and I always have trouble, don't I, trying to get it to work with the right thing. Is this the right thing?
Yes,
Yeah, here it comes.
working.
So is there, okay,
It's still, mine comes up as blank or black.
huh,
It just says Marie Gavassi had started screen sharing. You might have to click to your
let's see.
browser or
It says it's paused. Resume share. I'll try new share. Why is it that I always have such difficulty with this? Anything now?
There it is.
Yes.
There we go. Oh, look at that.
Okay, so this is what we looked at before.
Mm-hmm.
So we see the latest grant right here showing the 4,654, which would be now the library share. And then also it shows the application that Paul's going to be making for the 95,000 and then the library share.
Got it. Well, thank you.
Shall I stop this? Stop it now? So essentially, one of the things I noticed was that after putting the share of the library toward the latest grant, there would still be $50,000 left in the undesignated construction account.
The one point, other piece I would add in is you mentioned that there's a 1-year deadline for the $15,000 grant.
Yes. Although they said, that they can work with us on that
Okay,
because, knowing SHPO and their timelines, that could be a problem if we have to get it done within 1 year of signing and then we have to wait on SHPO.
yes.
And I asked someone else who had gotten a SHPO grant, not for a historic structure report, how long it took them to get everything where they could actually go ahead and bid it out. And they told me at the time that they'd just gotten approval to do so, and it had been about 2 years since the award. So I'm pleased that Paul said everything's almost there for the CFA.
Yeah. Okay, excellent, good news.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share.
The last thing I had on the agenda was Paul, I think Paul, you had mentioned that there's some questions about flood repair that was done at Lansingburg for the wood wainscot. And
Yeah, the wainscoting and the floor, there's some repair needed on the floor. There needs to be a repair on that joist underneath.
sure.
Um,
And the insurance company's giving you a hard time about it?
What's that?
The insurance company's giving you a hard time about it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The estimate that I got, and then the insurance company asked for only one estimate, going forward. So we got one estimate, and that was for 13.9, I think, for complete repairs. Again, I don't have all the exact numbers, but the insurance company is coming back with, I don't know, something like 4,000, way under, what's needed for the project. I got an email from Bill today that he sent along to the insurance company explaining, what his estimate was and why and that sort of thing. Because first of all, the insurance company was questioning everything about the estimate, which initially to me looked like a pretty honest estimate. But so he's helped us out with some negotiation here. So this is not over yet.
Yeah. I've seen it, looked at a little bit of the few of the things you had shared out there. And when we issue contracts for contractors, we stipulate what their overhead and profit can be. So we do lock their overhead and profit in at 10% and 10%. So that's maybe where the insurance company thinks that's some sort of industry standard. Well, that's not an industry standard. That's a limit that we set when we go out to contract, and the contractors can choose to bid the project or not. In the private sector, I'm not sure. I don't think there are any limits on what they can charge. And the fact that this work has been procured without having a previous contract, I don't know that there is a mandate that they may not exceed the 10% and 10%. The other piece about burden on there, I was a little surprised at his markup at the size of the markup for burden. I certainly expect to see a markup for burden.
I don't know what that is, Kristen.
So it's labor burden is, a company does work for you and they pay their masons $10 an hour and they pay their laborers $5 an hour, but it doesn't pay that when you're putting a bill together for somebody or a proposal together for somebody, it doesn't include the secretary at the office, the person who does the accounting, the rent on the building that you work out of, and that's called burden.
Oh.
It's
Okay, so we might call it administration. Yeah, it's probably called different terms
Yes,
for
yeah.
different types of grants.
It's a difference between your pay rate and your billing rate. I get paid a certain amount, but when I do work for the company, they bill me out at a higher rate because that accounts for all the other people who work at the office so that I can do my work.
And in this instance, is it different than the overhead,
Yes.
or is it the same as
No,
overhead?
it's in addition to overhead. Overhead is spelled out for very specific purposes on a specific project. Insurance for this project would be overhead. But the rent on the building that we work in, or the mortgage on the building the business is located in, that's not part of overhead in that sense of the word. At least as we define it in our contracts at our office.
Mhm.
I assume it's similar for, that's based on public law.
I think, right at this point, I would have no problem, negotiating with the contractor on something like this, but it seems right now it's awfully far apart. That's my problem.
And I don't know what the insurance company had offered on it exactly, but if it's, it does seem far apart. And if you may have, more luck approaching the insurance company saying, this is how much, spell out some of those burden costs. There was a secretary who wrote these emails. There was an accountant who put the bills together. There were different pieces there that were part of this here labor as well, that you may have better luck trying to include those in the rates of what the hours are. The other piece is that I'm not sure what the insurance company's been looking at. Did they come out and actually do a field visit to inspect the damage and the repairs that are required?
No, they didn't inspect it. They did request pictures, which I sent, but that's not the same as actually inspecting it.
Sure. To replace a joist at one location would be a lot quicker and easier than replacing a joist.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem, and I'm sure that they added this in, is, there's an issue with the floor joist underneath. I mean, one joist. But you say, oh, big deal, I get to go down and put another sister joist in there or something. But if you look at it, you go down to the basement and it's right where the old air handler unit is, which is gigantic. It's as big as this room. And the joist is wedged in behind that.
Yes.
So it's going to take like 3 times the labor, to fix that joist.
Right. You have to take things apart to put it back together again.
Yeah.
It's like a car. You want to replace one little piece inside the engine. Oh, by the way, we have to take the dashboard out to get to that. Right.
Now, Kirsten, you haven't seen the Lansingburg building, right? You weren't with us when we did the tour, and we never got back to take you through. Is that correct?
I have been in the building a few times.
Okay. But I mean, as far as going down to the basement and seeing all the,
I have not been
when
down
we did the tour,
not been down in the basement there. No.
would you like that to be arranged?
I think that would be helpful and valuable, but I don't think it's necessarily an issue for this particular issue. I think we certainly can help with help the insurance company understand the complexity of this work here, and that it's not just a little superficial repairs that can be done quickly and easily. That's a little more involved.
Okay, thanks.
I think in addition to, when you look at the repairs to the wainscot, those pieces have to be made. They have, Brush Brothers does have that ability. They have a shop in order to make those pieces, but it's not as if you're going to go to the store and buy, the piece already made.
So that you're absolutely right, Paul. So again, it comes down to the description and explaining things clearly to the insurance company. These are custom pieces that are not available from Home Depot. So what are next steps, Paul?
Well, like I said, Bill has sent back a description to answer some of the questions that the insurance company had. I'll give Chris a call next week. See what he thinks about that and maybe help to explain, what I know about the job.
Sure. If you'd like to, I could sit in on that call if that's helpful.
Okay, I
We
will.
can schedule that,
Yeah,
to
that
work out
may be-
time-wise.
That may be a good idea.
Let me know when you'd like to have the call and let's coordinate schedules and we'll see if we can't do that together and if I can be of assistance.
Okay, will do.
Great, great. Is there anything else that we want to talk about today?
Yes.
Bob, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you asked me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking if there's anything else people would like to bring to the table, talk about for building-related issues.
No, I have none. I'm just very happy about the grant. I think interesting conversation. No, I just wanted to monitor it.
Excellent. Well,
I have a question about something else. So how many petitions have we received for candidate, to be a candidate for the board?
Well, it's not 5 o'clock yet.
But have we received any yet?
I have received one from Brianna Clark.
Okay,
But that's all I know right now. I will double check. Yeah, I can give Pat a call down there at 5. Otherwise, I was going to stop in tomorrow morning too, before they open. But we'll see.
I recruited Brianna.
Thank you.
She's
She
my
did?
neighbor. Yeah, she's my neighbor. She's great.
Did she go around the neighborhood or?
She did. I believe she did. I know she like they literally live right
Yeah.
there. And she walked her dog. She's a basset hound. They have a basset hound, and she was walking by with Bentley and saw me out there. And she's like, "Oh, I need you to sign my petition." And Andrew, my husband, was doing something, and I made him stop mowing the lawn or whatever and come over and do it. But she's they've only lived in the area a couple of years, but
Yeah.
our neighborhood, we've got great people in our neighborhood. And I said, she's like, "Yeah, I know who to go to that'll, that I'm friendly with, and know that they're."
Excellent.
So yeah, she'd be great.
Okay.
I also reached out to Natalie Gibault and her sister Christiane Gibault. And Christiane's now I understand she's now the interim director or assistant director at the Cohoes Library. So she's no longer eligible to run for the board. She had expressed interest, I think, last year.
Mm.
She would be eligible. There's no conflict.
They felt they were not eligible, so for that reason. Maybe it was their
Maybe.
personal opinion.
Maybe it was from the standpoint of Cohoes that they felt.
Yeah, it's not
Rather than
from our
Marcus.
standpoint. We don't have anything that says, that's not legal. But Cohoes might, I don't know.
Well, if there are no further topics for today, then I think our next meeting would be the 25th of September. If people are on board with that.
Yeah,
Okay,
got it on.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
thank
everybody.
you.
Appreciate
Try
it.
night out
All
tonight in
right,
case
thank you.
anybody's interested.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't realize it was already that time.
Yes.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Troy. Have a nice weekend.
Have fun with family.
Thank you.